The unexpected discovery. The vast emptiness of space stretched out before Captain Zara Vega as she guided her small scout ship, the Starwing, through an uncharted sector of the galaxy. The ship's gentle hum was her only companion, a stark contrast to the bustling space stations and crowded planets she'd left behind months ago. Zara's mission was simple: explore, document, and report back to Earth's Interstellar Exploration Committee. But simplicity often bred monotony, and after weeks of scanning lifeless planets and barren asteroids, she yearned for something, anything, out of the ordinary. As if answering her unspoken wish, the Starwing sensors chirped to life. Zara's eyes widened as she read the display. An artificial structure, she muttered, her voice hoarse from disuse. On that asteroid. The asteroid in question was unremarkable, a lumpy, misshapen rock about the size of a small moon. But as Zara maneuvered the Starwing closer, she saw it. A sleek, silvery dome nestled in a crater, its surface reflecting the starlight. "This is Captain Zara Vega of the Earth exploration vessel Starwing," she broadcast, more out of protocol than expectation of a response. "I come in peace and request permission to approach." Silence answered her. Zara frowned, running another scan. The structure showed no signs of life, no energy signatures. It appeared abandoned. "Well," she said to herself, a smile tugging at her lips, "no one said I couldn't take a closer look." The Starwing touched down on the asteroid's surface with a soft thud. Zara double-checked her suit's seals before stepping out onto the rocky terrain. Each step sent small puffs of dust floating in the low gravity, and Zara had to consciously slow her pace to avoid bouncing too high. As she approached the dome, its seamless surface gleamed invitingly. Zara ran a gloved hand along its cool exterior, marveling at the alien craftsmanship. "How do I get in?" she wondered aloud. No sooner had the words left her mouth than a section of the dome shimmered and disappeared, revealing an entrance. Zara hesitated for a moment, her explorer's curiosity warring with caution. Curiosity won. Inside, the air was breathable, if stale. Zara removed her helmet, her eyes adjusting to the dim interior. The dome was a single vast chamber filled with strange machinery and what looked like stasis pods arranged in concentric circles. "Hello," Zara called out, her voice echoing in the empty space. "Is anyone here?" A soft whimper answered her. Zara spun around, her hand instinctively going to the stunner at her hip. The sound came again, unmistakably one of distress. Following the noise, Zara found herself standing before one of the stasis pods. Unlike the others, this one hummed with energy, its frosted surface obscuring the occupant within. A control panel beside it flashed with symbols Zara couldn't decipher. The whimper came once more, clearly from inside the pod. Without thinking, Zara pressed her palm against the largest symbol on the control panel. With a hiss of escaping air, the pod's cover slid open. Zara gasped. Inside lay a small alien child. Its skin was a pale blue, with delicate patterns swirling across its surface. 6-fingered hands curled into tiny fists, and large iridescent eyes blinked up at Zara in confusion and fear. "Hey there, little one," Zara said softly, her heart racing. "It's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The alien child whimpered again, reaching out a trembling hand toward Zara. As their fingers touched, a jolt of energy passed between them. Zara stumbled back, her mind flooded with fragmented images and emotions, fear, loneliness, and an overwhelming sense of urgency. Alarms blared suddenly, red lights flashing throughout the dome. A mechanical voice spoke in an alien language, its tone unmistakably threatening. The child in the pod began to cry, a haunting, melodic sound that tugged at Zara's very soul. Without hesitation, she scooped the alien child into her arms. "Hang on, kiddo," she said, cradling the small form against her chest. "We're getting out of here." As Zara ran towards the exit, the dome's interior began to shift. Walls rose from the floor, creating a maze-like obstacle course. The stasis pods sank into the ground, replaced by ominous-looking devices that crackled with energy. Zara's military training kicked in. She dodged and weaved through the changing landscape, the alien child clinging tightly to her. Just as they reached the entrance, a final wall began to materialize, threatening to seal them in. With a desperate leap, Zara dove through the narrowing gap, tucking and rolling to protect her precious cargo. They tumbled onto the asteroid's surface just as the dome sealed itself shut with a resounding boom. Gasping for breath, Zara looked down at the alien child in her arms. Those iridescent eyes stared back at her, filled with trust and gratitude. "Okay," Zara panted, her mind reeling from what had just transpired. "Okay, we're safe now. I've got you." But as the words left her mouth, the asteroid trembled beneath them. In the distance, Zara saw sleek, predatory-looking ships appearing from behind nearby planetoids. They were heading straight for the dome, and for Zara and her new companion. "Scratch that," Zara muttered, scrambling to her feet. "We're not safe yet. Come on, little one. Let's see how fast this human can run." With the alien child secured in one arm and her stunner drawn in the other, Captain Zara Vega raced back to the Starwing. Behind her, the mysterious dome pulsed with energy, and ahead, unknown dangers awaited. But in that moment, only one thing mattered: protecting the small, vulnerable life she'd just saved. As Zara reached the Starwing, she knew her life, and perhaps the fate of two species, had just changed forever. The real adventure was only beginning. A dangerous journey begins. The Starwing's engines roared to life as Zara strapped herself into the pilot's seat, the alien child secured in a makeshift harness beside her. The pursuing ships grew larger in her view screen, their sleek designs unlike anything in Earth's database. "Hang on, little one," Zara said, engaging the thrusters. "This might get bumpy." The Starwing shot off the asteroid's surface, narrowly avoiding a barrage of energy blasts from the lead pursuer. Zara's hands flew over the controls, pushing her ship to its limits as they weaved through the asteroid field. "Starwing to Earth Command," she called into her comm unit. "This is Captain Zara Vega. I've encountered hostile forces in Sector 7 Gamma, requesting immediate assistance." Only static answered her. They were too far out, beyond the range of Earth's communication network. Zara was on her own. A blast rocked the Starwing, sending alarms blaring throughout the cockpit. Zara glanced at her alien passenger, surprised to see not fear, but intense concentration on the child's face. Suddenly, the ship's damaged systems began to repair themselves, readouts returning to normal as if by magic. Did you do that?" Zara asked, incredulous. The alien child tilted its head, those iridescent eyes blinking slowly. A sense of affirmation washed over Zara, accompanied by a feeling of exhaustion from her small companion. "Thank you," Zara said softly. "But pace yourself, okay? We've got a long way to go." As they cleared the asteroid field, Zara spotted a massive gas giant looming ahead. Its swirling storms and complex ring system offered both danger and opportunity. With a determined grin, she aimed the Starwing straight for the planet's upper atmosphere. "Let's see how good these aliens really are," she muttered. The Starwing plunged into the gas giant's turbulent clouds, buffeted by fierce winds and pelted by ice crystals. Zara's piloting skills were pushed to their limits as she navigated the treacherous environment. Behind them, two of the pursuing ships faltered, their hulls unable to withstand the planet's brutal conditions. But the lead ship pressed on, matching Zara's every move. As they emerged from the other side of the gas giant, a lucky shot clipped the Starwing's wing. The ship spiraled out of control, heading straight for one of the planet's icy moons. "Brace for impact," Zara shouted, fighting the controls. The Starwing skidded across the moon's frozen surface, carving a deep furrow in the ice before coming to a stop at the edge of a vast crevasse. As the cockpit filled with steam from ruptured coolant lines, Zara's first thought was for her passenger. "Are you okay?" she asked, quickly unbuckling the alien child. A wave of dizziness and nausea hit her, not her own feelings, she realized, but projected from her small companion. The use of its strange abilities had taken a toll. "I've got you," Zora said, cradling the child as she popped the emergency hatch. "We need to move. Can you walk?" The alien nodded weakly, its tiny hand grasping Zora's tightly. They stumbled out onto the icy surface, the damaged starwing creaking ominously behind them. In the distance, Zora could see the pursuing ship touching down. "This way," she urged, leading them towards a nearby ice cave. "We need to hide." As they entered the cave's frigid interior, Zora's mind raced. The starwing was their only way off this moon, and it was in no shape to fly. The aliens hunting them had superior technology and unknown intentions, and her only ally was a child with mysterious powers, powers that seemed to drain it with each use. "Okay, think, Zora," she muttered, settling the alien child onto a smooth ice shelf. "What's the play here?" The child tugged at her sleeve, those iridescent eyes wide with concern. A series of images flashed through Zora's mind. The stasis pod, the dome, a sense of great importance, and even greater danger. "You're something special, aren't you?" Zora said softly. "That's why they're after you." "But why? What can you do that's so important?" Before the child could respond, a sound echoed through the ice cave, footsteps drawing closer. Zora pulled the alien close, her hand on her stunner. "Captain Zora Vega," a voice called out, its tone surprisingly human. "We know you're in there. Come out peacefully, and no harm will come to you or the child." Zora's eyes narrowed. How did they know her name? And why did they sound so Earth-like? "Who are you?" she shouted back. "What do you want with us?" "All will be explained," the voice replied. "But time is of the essence. There are forces at work here beyond your understanding. The child you've rescued is far more important than you realize." The alien child clutched at Zora, a feeling of terror emanating from its small form. Whatever these pursuers wanted, the child clearly didn't want to go with them. "Sorry," Zora called out, her resolve hardening. "But I'm going to need more than vague warnings to hand over a scared kid to armed strangers." "Then you leave us no choice," the voice said, a note of regret evident. "Prepare to be extracted." A high-pitched whine filled the air, and the ice around them began to glow with an eerie light. Zora felt a tingling sensation across her skin, like static electricity building up. "Hold on tight, little one," she said, scooping up the alien child. "Whatever happens, we're in this together now." As the light intensified, Zora made a split-second decision. Instead of retreating further into the cave, she charged towards the entrance. The sudden movement seemed to disrupt whatever technology their pursuers were using. The whine cut off abruptly, and Zora burst out of the cave into the open. She came face to face with their pursuer, and felt her jaw drop in shock. The figure before her was undeniably human. "Hello, Captain Vega," the man said, his expression a mix of admiration and frustration. "I'm Commander Alexander Petrov of the Temporal Integrity Commission, and I'm afraid you've just changed the future in ways you can't possibly imagine." Zora's mind reeled. Temporal Integrity Commission, the future. She looked down at the alien child in her arms, those iridescent eyes now glowing with an inner light. "Oh, kiddo," she whispered, "what have I gotten us into?" As Petrov and his team surrounded them, Zora knew that her mission of simple exploration had become something far more complex and far more dangerous. The next move she made could determine not just their fate, but potentially the fate of all humanity. With the alien child clinging to her, Captain Zora Vega squared her shoulders and faced Commander Petrov. Whatever came next, she was ready to fight for the innocent life she'd sworn to protect, even if it meant challenging the very flow of time itself. Revelations and challenges. The interior of Commander Petrov's ship was a stark contrast to the icy moon outside. Sleek, advanced technology hummed all around them, far beyond anything Zora had seen in her time. She sat across from Petrov in a small conference room, the alien child nestled in her lap, refusing to leave her side. "I know you have questions, Captain Vega," Petrov began, his tone measured. "I'll do my best to explain, but you must understand that the very act of telling you this information is changing the timeline." Zara's eyes narrowed. "Then why tell me at all? Why not just take the child and be done with it?" Petrov sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. "Because that child has already bonded with you. Its species, the Nexeri, form powerful psychic connections. Separating you now could have unpredictable consequences. The child, the Nexeri," Zara corrected herself mentally, snuggled closer to her, a wave of affection and trust washing over her. "Fine," Zara said. "Start talking. Who are you really? What's so important about this child? And why does it feel like the fate of the universe is somehow resting on our shoulders?" Petrov's lips quirked in a humorless smile. "Because, in a way, it is." He leaned forward, his eyes intense. "Captain Vega, you're not just holding an alien child. You're holding the key to humanity's survival." Over the next hour, Petrov laid out a future that left Zora reeling. Humanity would expand across the stars, encountering numerous alien species. Most of these encounters would be peaceful, leading to a thriving galactic community. But one race, the Void Hunters, saw other sentient life as a threat to be eliminated. "The Nexeri," Petrov explained, gesturing to the child, "are the only species with the ability to detect and counter the Void Hunters' technology. Without them, humanity and countless other races would be wiped out." Zara looked down at the child in her arms, those iridescent eyes now seeming to hold the weight of galaxies. "But it's just a kid," she protested. "How can it be responsible for saving entire civilizations?" "Not it," Petrov corrected gently. "Them. This child is the last of the Nexeri, the one you rescued from that stasis pod. It's a clone, created from the combined genetic material of the entire Nexeri race. It holds within it the potential to restore their species, and with them, the galaxy's best hope for survival." The gravity of the situation settled over Zara like a physical weight. She thought back to the dome, the stasis pods, the strange abilities the child had displayed. It all started to make a terrible kind of sense. "The Void Hunters," she said slowly. "They found the Nexeri homeworld, didn't they? That's why this child was hidden away." Petrov nodded grimly. "Yes, and now that you've awakened it, they'll be coming. That's why we're here, to protect the child and ensure it reaches safety." Zara's mind was spinning, but one thing remained clear. She looked down at the Nexeri child, feeling its fear, its trust, its hope. "I'm not letting you take them," she said firmly, meeting Petrov's gaze. "Whatever happens next, I'm seeing this through." Petrov's expression softened. "I was hoping you'd say that, Captain. Because the truth is, we need you. The child has bonded with you in a way we didn't anticipate. You're part of this now, whether you like it or not." As if to emphasize his point, alarms suddenly blared throughout the ship. One of Petrov's crew burst into the room, her face pale. "Commander, we've got multiple Void Hunter ships dropping out of hyperspace. They've found us." Petrov was on his feet in an instant, barking orders. Zara stood as well, the Nexeri child clinging to her tightly. Through their connection, she could feel its panic. And something else. A sense of power, building like a storm about to break. "What's happening?" she asked, alarmed by the intensity of the feeling. Petrov turned to her, his eyes wide. "The child's abilities are manifesting. Captain, you need to keep it calm. If it loses control now—" He never finished the sentence. The ship rocked violently, throwing them off balance. Through the view screen, Zara saw a massive dark shape emerging from a swirling vortex of energy. The Void Hunter flagship had arrived. "Get to the escape pod," Petrov ordered, helping Zara to her feet. "We'll hold them off as long as we can. There's a safe haven coordinates programmed in. You need to get the child there, no matter what. The fate of the galaxy depends on it. Zara wanted to argue, to find another way, but the urgency in Petrov's voice and the trembling form of the Nexari child in her arms made the decision for her. She nodded once, then turned and ran. As Zara strapped herself and the child into the escape pod, explosions rocked the ship around them. Through their link, she could feel the Nexari's terror and guilt. It knew it was the cause of this destruction. "Hey," Zara said softly, cupping the child's face in her hands. "This isn't your fault. We're going to get through this, okay? I promise." Those iridescent eyes met hers, filled with a trust that both humbled and terrified her. Zara hit the launch button, and the escape pod shot away from Petrov's dying ship. As they hurtled through space, void hunter vessels in hot pursuit, Zora realized that her entire world had changed in the span of a few hours. She was no longer just an explorer, no longer just human. She was now the protector of perhaps the most important being in the galaxy, fleeing from an enemy she barely understood, towards a destination she couldn't even fathom. But as the Nexari child curled up against her, its small hand intertwining with hers, Zara felt a fierce determination well up inside her. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever sacrifices she might have to make, she would see this through. For the child, for humanity, for the entire galaxy. The escape pod's engines flared as it prepared for its first hyperspace jump. Zara held the Nexari close, her voice barely a whisper. "Hang on, little one. Our real journey is just beginning." With a flash of light, the pod vanished into hyperspace, carrying with it the hopes of countless civilizations and the indomitable spirit of one human woman determined to defy the very fabric of time and space to protect an impossible child. Confrontation and choices. The escape pod emerged from hyperspace with a violent shudder, alarms blaring as systems overloaded from the strain of the prolonged jump. Zara's hands flew over the controls, trying to stabilize their trajectory as they hurtled towards an unknown planet. "Brace for impact," she shouted, pulling the Nexari child close as the pod entered the planet's atmosphere. They crashed through dense foliage, the pod's outer hull screaming as it scraped against massive tree trunks. With a final bone-jarring thud, they came to rest in a clearing, steam hissing from ruptured coolant lines. Zara groaned, her body aching from the impact. "You okay, kiddo?" she asked, looking down at the Nexari. The child nodded, its iridescent eyes wide with concern. Through their link, Zara felt a gentle probing, the Nexari checking her for injuries. The sensation was followed by a warm, soothing feeling as the child used its abilities to ease Zara's pain. "Thanks," Zara said with a smile. "But don't wear yourself out. We need to figure out where we are and find that safe haven Petrov mentioned." As they climbed out of the battered pod, Zara took in their surroundings. The forest around them was unlike anything she'd ever seen. Trees towering hundreds of meters into the sky, their trunks shimmering with bioluminescent patterns. The air was thick and humid, filled with the calls of unseen creatures. Zara checked the pod's navigation system, relieved to find it still partially functional. "Looks like we're about 50 kilometers from the coordinates Petrov gave us," she said. "We should." A low, menacing hum filled the air, cutting her off. Zara's blood ran cold as she recognized the sound. Void hunter ships entering the atmosphere. "Run," she yelled, scooping up the Nexari child and sprinting into the dense undergrowth. They crashed through the alien forest, the sounds of pursuit growing closer with each passing moment. Zara's lungs burned, her legs ached, but she pushed on, driven by the need to protect the precious life in her arms. Suddenly, the Nexari stiffened, its eyes glowing with an intense inner light. Before Zara could react, the world around them seemed to shift. The forest blurred, and when it came back into focus, they were standing in a different clearing, the sounds of pursuit now distant. "Did you teleport us?" Zara asked, breathless. The child nodded weakly, clearly exhausted by the effort. Zara felt a mix of awe and concern through their link. The Nexary's powers were growing, but each use seemed to drain it more. A twig snapped behind them. Zara whirled around, coming face to face with a figure she never expected to see again. Commander Petrov. How? Zara began, but Petrov cut her off with a raised hand. No time to explain, he said urgently. The safe haven is just ahead. We need to move now. As they hurried through the forest, Petrov filled Zara in on what had happened. His ship had been destroyed, but he and a few crew members had managed to escape. They'd been tracking Zara's pod, hoping to rendezvous before the Void Hunters found them. They emerged from the tree line onto a rocky outcropping. Before them stood an ancient structure, its architecture unlike anything Zara had ever seen. Intricate patterns covered its surface, pulsing with a soft, otherworldly light. The Nexary Sanctuary, Petrov explained as they approached, built eons ago to safeguard their species in times of great danger. As they neared the entrance, the ground shook. A massive Void Hunter ship appeared overhead, its dark hull blocking out the sky. Smaller craft detached from it, descending towards them with frightening speed. Get inside, Petrov shouted, drawing a weapon Zara didn't recognize. I'll hold them off. Zara hesitated, torn between the need to protect the child and her instinct to stand and fight. The Nexary tugged at her arm, its thoughts clear through their link. They needed to reach the sanctuary's core. With a final nod to Petrov, Zara raced into the structure. The interior was a maze of twisting corridors and vast chambers, each thrumming with ancient power. The Nexary guided her, its small hand gripping hers tightly as they navigated the labyrinth. They reached a central chamber just as the sounds of battle erupted outside. In the center stood a pillar of swirling energy, tendrils of light reaching out as if alive. The Nexary pulled away from Zara, approaching the pillar with reverence. It turned to her, its eyes filled with a mixture of sadness and determination. Through their link, Zara understood what was about to happen, and her heart broke. No, she said, her voice cracking. There has to be another way. I can't lose you. The child smiled, a bittersweet expression that seemed far too old for its young face. In that moment, Zara felt the full weight of the Nexary's existence, the hopes, dreams, and memories of an entire species, all contained within this one small form. A massive explosion rocked the sanctuary. The Void Hunters were breaking through. They were out of time. With a final, loving caress of Zara's mind, the Nexary child stepped into the pillar of energy. There was a blinding flash, and when Zara could see again, the pillar had transformed. Within it floated countless shimmering orbs, each containing what looked like a miniature galaxy. Zara understood. The Nexary hadn't died. It had evolved, becoming a conduit for the rebirth of its entire species. Each of those orbs was a new Nexary, waiting to be born. The chamber doors burst open. Void Hunters poured in, their weapons trained on Zara and the transformed pillar. But before they could fire, the orbs within the pillar began to pulse with blinding light. Waves of energy radiated outward, passing through Zara harmlessly, but causing the Void Hunters to scream in agony. Their weapons and armor crumbled to dust, leaving them vulnerable and confused. In that moment of chaos, Petrov appeared, battered but alive. It's done, he said, a note of awe in his voice. The Nexary have returned. The balance is restored. As the energy waves spread beyond the sanctuary, beyond the planet, Zara felt a profound sense of change sweeping across the galaxy. The Void Hunters' threat was neutralized, their technology rendered useless by the Nexary's power. But amid the victory, Zara felt a deep sense of loss. The child she had protected, had come to love, was gone, transformed into something greater, yet no longer the innocent being she had held in her arms. Petrov placed a hand on her shoulder. You did it, Captain Vega. You've saved not just humanity, but countless species across the galaxy. Zara nodded, tears streaming down her face. What happens now? she asked. Now, Petrov said, gesturing to the pillar where new Nexari were already beginning to take corporeal form. We help them rebuild, and we prepare for a new era of galactic peace. As Zara watched the newborn Nexari emerge, she felt a familiar touch on her mind. An echo of the child she had known, now part of something far greater. It filled her with a bittersweet mix of sorrow and hope. Whatever the future held, Zara knew her life would never be the same. She had journeyed across time and space, faced impossible odds, and emerged forever changed. As she stepped forward to greet the new Nexari, Zara realized that her greatest adventure was only just beginning. A new understanding. Months had passed since the climactic events at the Nexari Sanctuary. The galaxy was still reeling from the changes brought about by the return of the Nexari and the neutralization of the Void Hunters. Zara found herself at the center of it all, a reluctant hero thrust into a role she never could have imagined. She stood on the observation deck of the newly christened Starship Hope, watching as the swirling colors of hyperspace gave way to normal space. Before them loomed Earth, the blue marble that had once been Zara's entire world. It felt like a lifetime ago. Nervous? Petrov asked, joining her at the viewport. Zara shook her head. Not nervous. Just reflecting. So much has changed. Indeed it had. The revelation of time travel, the existence of the Nexari, and the threat of the Void Hunters had shaken humanity to its core. But with change came opportunity, and Earth was now taking its first steps into a larger galactic community. The Hope was on a mission of peace and diplomacy, carrying representatives from Earth to meet with the newly reformed Galactic Council. And at the heart of this mission were the Nexari, or at least, the new generation of them. As if summoned by her thoughts, Zara felt a familiar presence brush against her mind. She turned to see Nova, one of the first Nexari to be born from the energy pillar, approaching. Though physically a child, Nova's eyes held wisdom beyond measure. "We are nearing the homeworld," Nova said, its melodic voice tinged with excitement. "Our first true interaction with your species en masse. Are you prepared, Zara?" Zara smiled, still marveling at how the Nexari managed to be both alien and familiar at the same time. "As ready as I'll ever be. How about you? This is a big moment for your people too." Nova's iridescent eyes shimmered with emotion. "We are. Eager. Anxious. Hopeful. So much of who we are was shaped by the memories and experiences of our predecessor, the child you rescued. Your kindness, your bravery, they are integral to our understanding of humanity." A pang of bittersweet nostalgia hit Zara as she thought of the Nexari child she had protected. Though transformed, echoes of that child lived on in every new Nexari. It was a comfort, albeit a small one. "Captain Vega to the bridge." A voice called over the intercom. "We're beginning our approach to Earth." As they made their way to the bridge, Zara marveled at the crew around her. Humans worked alongside representatives from a dozen alien species, all brought together by the promise of a new era of cooperation. It was a far cry from the lonely exploration missions she had once undertaken. On the bridge, view screens flickered to life, showing the faces of world leaders and dignitaries eager to greet the returning mission. Zara took a deep breath, steadying herself for what was to come. "People of Earth," she began, her voice carried across millions of screens planetside. "I stand before you not just as Captain Zara Vega, but as a representative of a new age. An age where humanity takes its place among the stars, not as conquerors or isolationists, but as partners in a grand cosmic community." She gestured to Nova and the other Nexari present. "With me are the Nexari, a species reborn through sacrifice and hope. They come not to rule or to demand, but to share their wisdom and to learn from us in turn. Together, we face a future bright with possibility, but also fraught with challenges we've yet to imagine." As Zara spoke, she felt a swell of emotions. Not just her own, but those of the Nexari, the crew, and even the watching millions on Earth. Hope, fear, excitement, uncertainty, all mingled together in a tapestry of feeling that threatened to overwhelm her. Nova stepped forward, its small hand slipping into Zora's. Through their touch, Zara felt a wave of calm and support. She squeezed the Nexari's hand gently, grateful for the connection. "The journey that brought us here was one of hardship and loss," Zora continued. "But it was also one of discovery, of new friends, new wonders, and new aspects of ourselves. As we move forward into this new era, let us carry with us the lessons we've learned. That our strength lies in our diversity, our resilience in our unity, and our greatest power in our capacity for compassion." The speech continued, with Zara outlining the broad strokes of the new galactic accords and the role Earth would play in the reformed Galactic Council. But even as she spoke, her mind was already racing ahead to the challenges that lay before them. The Void Hunters, though neutralized, were not gone entirely. Other threats lurked in the vast darkness between the stars, and humanity itself was still grappling with its newfound place in the cosmic order. The road ahead would not be easy, but as Zara looked around at her crew, human and alien alike, and felt the unwavering support of the Nexari beside her, she knew they were ready to face whatever came next. They had already achieved the impossible. What was one more miracle between friends? As the Hope began its final descent towards Earth, Zara felt a sense of completion. The lonely explorer she had once been was gone, replaced by something greater, a bridge between worlds, a guardian of a fragile peace, and a symbol of humanity's potential. The Nexari child she had rescued might be gone, transformed into something greater, but its legacy lived on. In the new generation of Nexari, in the alliance of species working together on the Hope, and in Zara herself, forever changed by her journey across the stars. As they broke through Earth's atmosphere, the future stretching out before them like an infinite cosmic ocean, Zara allowed herself a small smile. Whatever lay ahead, they would face it together. And in that unity there was hope. Hope as vast and enduring as the universe itself. The Hope touched down on Earth, marking not an end, but a beginning. A new chapter in the story of humanity, of the Nexari, and of a galaxy learning to heal its ancient wounds and reach for a brighter tomorrow. And at the heart of it all stood Zara Vega, once a solitary explorer, now a beacon of hope for species across the cosmos. As the ship's doors opened to a world forever changed, Zara took her first step into humanity's new future, ready for whatever adventures awaited among the stars.